Here's the finished frame after a few weeks of work on it. We had lots of a few areas to fix on it. Namely, up in front here, these areas here were completely rusted out, and you can see we patched those in very nicely, matched the contours of the frame, got them all ground out. We also had to replace the body mount area. OPG has some really nice retro parts with some galvanized washers with the right thickness, and just cut the old holes out, welded in a couple new washers there. We also had a couple areas in the back of the frame, namely up and underneath here. We had to cut those out, weld in a few new pieces there as well. I've got a couple pictures that show that process. On the back of the frame, the rear body mounts, these were pretty much gone. They make those reproduction parts. We just cut them off, put the new ones on. Again, there was some areas underneath here that were pretty bad, and we had to cut those out as well. Straightened and fixed the rear cross member. The mounts back here, those were not bad. Other than that side, I did have to put one in over there. Again, we put a new body mount back here. We had a couple holes in the frame up here. We just welded those in, ground them out. And since you don't see this much, we did stiffen this up quite a bit and grind it down as much as we can, but I wasn't as concerned about how that looks since no one will see that. We did have to repair underneath here as well, and stitch a new piece in and grind that out. That ground out really nice. This front one, same thing. This was pretty much gone, and you can see that turned out really nice. Ground it nice and smooth and flat, and matched it up to the frame there. I did stitch in a new body mount washer there as well, and that turned out nice. We cleaned up a lot of the area up here. The original welds, they blew through on a couple of their factory welds, so I went back in here and stitched that up and ground it out nice and flat, so that looks really nice before putting back the brake line holder. And then ground out, there was another area here that again, the factory weld or factory manufacturing had blown through. We beefed that back up. Up here, this area had rusted out. Cut that out and welded a new piece in there to make that look back to normal. This side was just fine. There was no issues with that side. And then we move forward into strengthening the frame. That's where we went ahead and boxed it in. We went from end to end, made all the dimensions right in the frame, and then we welded in a cross member mount here. Got that all welded in. We'll run the fuel line above that all the way back. And then we did box in the lower control arm mounts. I will put in the frame stiffener for the cross member, for the upper cross member. I have those. I'm going to put those in here as I reassemble the frame. Same thing on this side. Box this in, ground that out nice and smooth, and I'll put the support in there for that. There's the other side. And I know I saw a lot of different folks do a few different things on boxing this back in, especially around how you cut this out. There's a bracket that's in there. I went ahead and formed my piece and then started to cut out, and this really finished out nicely. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Very smooth and seamless. And then I again put in the cross member mount. And this frame is tremendously more stiff than the original design. The other thing I did was went ahead and framed, boxed in the back. Originally this is not boxed in. I went ahead and boxed that in just to give it a little more strength in the back. And again, went ahead and did that on that side as well. I still have to clean up the rear axle. I rebuilt that. And just got to power wash and clean that up a little bit. I did put the disc brake conversion kit on there, but I've got to finish running the lines and everything. I also boxed the lower control arms. Again, that's just a kit. You can get these for a couple, 20, 30 bucks. And then I drilled it out for the rear sway bar, since this is a 136 car, never had a lot of that high performance suspension components in the back, so it didn't come with a sway bar. So I just boxed these in, ground them out, and that'll really help the rear suspension. And I've got the rear sway bar that I'm putting in here. During my sandblasting of the frame, just to clean it up, I had painted these lower arms. I got to go back and repaint them. Put new bushings in, new springs. There are the rubber spring mounts underneath here. Those are new. Yeah, they cleaned up nice. Really happy with how the frame turned out. And now we are reassembling the front suspension. We've got new springs, since I'm going from a small block to a big block. I got new springs and rubber mounts up front. I did have to replace the lower A-arm. Where the springs were, they were all rusted out, so I just bought a couple new ones for 80 bucks a piece. It's well worth that money versus trying to find salvage yard ones and having to sandblast those and repaint those. So I just went ahead and bit the bullet and got new ones. Got a whole new Moog ball joint steering components, bushings for the A-arms. I got a new center link, and I am doing the disc brake conversion kit there as well. Rotors and spindles are sitting there ready to go for today's work. And step one, getting these ball joints and bushings put back in. So we'll see you guys again later as we finish this up.